everyone. All right, guys, how are y'all doing? Welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real with Philly Phil. Okay? All right. Today's episode, I am going to be giving you an update on Mr. Tim Big Hips Norman. We're going to see what's going on with him. Is he still in jail? What's going on with Tim? All right? And we're also going to give you an update on Jacob Blake, that young man who was recently shot in Kenosha 7 times in the back. He was unarmed, as far as we know. He didn't have a weapon pointing at the police or anything like that. And we're going to also update you on the young teenager, Cal, who shot 2 people and injured 1. We're going to see what's going on with him, okay? All right, let's get into this news. So first we're going to talk about Uncle Hips Tim, okay? Now remember, Tim was arrested along with his co-conspirators, Terica Ellis, back on August the 11th, 2020. And they were able to do this because they were able to trace the temporary phones that Tim activated in his name. Now, one phone was activated near the Chase Park Plaza Mall, and it had the phone number of 314-609-4415. That was Ellis' phone, number 1. The second phone had the number 314-607-8132. That was Norman's phone, okay? Both Ellis and Norman phones were activated the day of poor Andre's homicide, and then deactivated the day after the homicide, okay? The phones communicated consistently throughout the day of the homicide, and both were deactivated and ceased activity on March 15th, the day after the homicide, okay? All right, so YouTube's J So Extra. She has sources. Your girl working on getting her some sources. You guys just keep hanging with me. But until then, I'll just keep reading and doing all the research I can to make sure I'm bringing you good and clear and accurate content, all right? So J So Extra, she reported that Tim Norman, when he was booked and during the intake into the Madison County jail there in Mississippi, that he was bullied by the guards. Now, you know, Tim owns a restaurant in Mississippi, okay? And people know him, so they were bullying him, you know. I don't see Tim being bullied for long. Tim is a very large, hippie man, and I just don't see him being bullied for a long period of time. Remember, Tim was raised in prison from the age of 17 to the age of 28. That's a long time, and I'm sure he picked up, you know, it's probably why it was hard for him to stay away from it, because he had that prison life mentality when he was jumping on Andre and Charles. Remember that? I've talked about that in another one of my episodes. But he has that prison mentality. So I don't think that he'll be bullied for long. I actually see him going into prison, if he has to go back, and possibly for life, probably having a little clout when he gets back in there because of the things he's done outside, you know, of prison when he was released. And that's it. He had a good life, but he let greed and money and fame and fortune and evilness just take over. He was doing so well. That prison life, he just could not let it go. And some people have a hard time once they're released, you know, and coming back out into society. They have a hard time fitting in. But Tim had every evilness and the hatred and selfishness that he felt towards his nephew. It took over, and now look what it's done. He'll possibly be going back to prison for the rest of his life, and the shooter has not yet been identified, okay? I believe they know who the shooter is, and they're just keeping that under wraps, because I don't think, this is just my opinion, I don't think it was Terica. I think she actually just lured young Andre outside, and the shooter was with her. I think it was possibly a male shooter. We don't have a name yet. That's just my opinion, okay? I don't know that for sure, but no, the shooter has not been identified. I know you guys have been asking that, but the shooter hasn't been identified of yet. But trust me, as soon as they release the name of that shooter, I would definitely be updating you guys on that information, okay? But until long, you know, and you know, they're close. They were right there. They could probably sense that hatred he had towards Andre as well. So let's just keep them in our prayers, all right? All right, let's get on to this shooting in Kenosha, okay? Let's talk about that. So, you know, we discussed the other day about Jacob Blake, the young black man who was shot 7 times in the back by police in Kenosha. Now, there hasn't been a weapon, a gun. Some people are saying that he possibly had a pocket knife. I'm not sure, but he wasn't fighting the police or anything like that. So I don't see a justification for shooting him 7 times in the back. And this brings me to what I want to talk about. The young man, Kyle Rittenhouse, because protests broke out after that, as they always do, and as they should. Peaceful protests, okay? Peaceful. As I talked about, we have the right to assemble and peacefully protest, okay? That is your right. Now, once that shooting happened, of course, the protests did break out, and some of the people, the protests were infiltrated. Some of them were not peaceful, and they were burning down buildings and breaking into things. So one teen, Kyle Rittenhouse, he now faces first-degree intentional homicide, 1 count of first-degree reckless homicide, and 1 count of attempted first-degree intentional homicide, and 2 counts of first-degree reckless endangerment. Now, prosecutors on Thursday charged the 17-year-old from Illinois. Now, he drove from Illinois to Wisconsin in the fatal shooting of 2 protesters and the wounding of a third in Kenosha, Wisconsin, during a night of unrest following the weekend police shooting of Blake. Now, since then, the governor has brought in the guard to help keep the peace there. And that's a good thing. So Kyle faces charges of first-degree intentional homicide and 1 count of first-degree, which I already talked about that. All right, the attack late Tuesday, largely brought on by cell phone video and posted online, showed this young man walking down the street alongside police. And they did nothing to him. He was branding his weapons. Now, you tell me, if young homeboy from the west side walked down the street fully armed, branding weapons, what are they going to do to him? I mean, the police cars did nothing. You can see, I'm going to try to put some video in there showing that. They didn't do anything to him. And he had just shot these people, and the people were trying to tell the police officers that's why he was holding his hands up, because he thought he was caught. And they still did nothing to him, okay? So it says, the attack late on Tuesday was largely caught on cell phone video and posted online. And the shooting by police Sunday of Blake, a 29-year-old black father of 6 who was left paralyzed. He's paralyzed from the waist down. He didn't die. He's fighting. But he's paralyzed. And come to find out, the police had him shackled in his hospital bed. And he's paralyzed. He can't get up and walk. You've already shot him 7 times in the back. Why does he have to be shackled like some slave in the hospital bed? Okay, the latest focal point in the fight against racial injustice that has gripped the county since May 25th, death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. There's just so much going on, okay? Kenosha police face questions about their interactions with the gunman on Tuesday night. They just let him walk around like he was on the police force. He's a 17-year-old high school dropout. He's dropped out of high school, and now he's a part of Blue Lives Matter, the police. All police are not bad. Trust me, we need the police. There's just some rotten apples in the bunch, but who deputized him and told him he could walk around, leave his state, come to another? And at the age of 17, it's legal to open carry in Wisconsin, but not a 17-year-old. So he was breaking the law there, okay? According to witnesses' accounts and video footage, police apparently let the gunman walk past them and leave the scene with a rifle over his shoulder and his hands in the air as members of the crowd yelled for him to be arrested because he had just shot people. As for how the gunman managed to slip away, Kenosha County Sheriff David Beth has described a chaotic, high-stress scene with lots of radio traffic and people screaming and chanting and running. Conditions, he said, caused tunnel vision among law officers. Video taken from the shooting shows the police tossing bottled water from an armored vehicle and thanking civilians armed with long guns walking the streets. One of them appeared to be this young man. So instead of the police arresting him, they was giving him water and thanking him for being armed. And I guess, but who told him he was the protector of the streets? You're not a police officer. You're a high school 17-year-old dropout. You should be studying, trying to learn something online during this pandemic instead of driving to other states and shooting unarmed people. All right, guys, that's my take on this, okay? I don't think it was right. No one deputized him. I know we have a right to carry guns, but it was illegal for him to carry that gun in Wisconsin. Yes, he was 17. He should not have been allowed to do that, and they should not have allowed him to walk the streets fully loaded like that and armed. All right. That being said, I just want to remind you guys that voting is important. We all have a right to vote, and that's why, and you know, when we vote, things happen. And that's why they don't want these votes to be counted before they're even cast. Why do you have to ask yourself, like Kamala Harris said, why are they working so hard to stop us from voting? Us as everyone. You know, lots of people send in mail-in ballots. Your vote matters, okay? All right, guys. That's my take on it. This is sad. We just got to stay prayed up and make sure that you stand for something so you don't